User login is a mess. There is just so much that you have to do. It's really not so bad when you're just thinking about the success states. Like, you need to be able to register an account and log into your account, reset your password. And if everything goes well and your database is in the state it's supposed to be in, that's not so hard. Um, Resetting a password for a user who's already registered and activated, well, that's fine and dandy. That's one little thing. Uh, but here I am working on the password reset part of things, and I have so many tests. It's just getting out of control. Right now, I guess in the reset password file, I only have 7 tests written. I haven't written any of the implementation for it. And I think I'm missing quite a few things. Every step of this particular project has found there's just a lot more to it than I expected there would be. I went through this with registration, where there are 7 tests and I'm still missing things. No. There are 9 tests and I'm still missing things. Like, I haven't written a test for trying to complete an expired registration, which needs a unique handling that is different from when you try to complete a registration code that's still valid. And then what if they get a registration code and they wait 10 days and the code's not valid anymore? Well, do they refill the registration form out to get a new registration code? And then the logic changes there, because instead of saying, sorry, your account already exists, we have to do an additional check. It's like, well, okay, so why don't we just throw it into the password reset, which I think is what I'm doing. Which I feel like is a little semantically. Like, go fill out the password reset form to get a new registration code. I don't like it, but it's where I am, and I don't think I want to dig through the rest of my code to make the registration form work differently. I mean, that thing's already kind of a mess. You've got a series of ifs to do validation. You have now, then we check if we're registered. Oh, and I'm using Go2 because it honestly was just a really easy way to implement this. So I have a form label here, and I go to the form sometimes. But I just don't want to add another condition, really. So I may end up coming back here and revisiting this. But then here with the reset password, I was previously thinking in terms of what possible paths can it take. And I didn't write that down here. Where did I put it? I lost my notes. They're missing. Yeah, so in my to-dos here, yep. Oh my gosh, did I click there? Here in my to-dos, I have reset password form, submit password reset, and complete password reset. Like, that's in my head when I was planning this out, that's all I needed to do. But you have to handle the fail states too, and the edge cases, the weird conditions. So it's turning into a lot more. So overall, we have 4 actions, which are to get the password reset form, post the password reset form, which would send an email, get the complete reset form where you'll actually enter your new password, and the post complete reset form where you submit the reset password code that was sent to your email, and you submit your new password that you want to use. So those are 4 different actions we have to do, and then there's at least 3 states that we have to be testing on too. So does that mean that I have 12 different tests that I need to write? And a lot of those tests are really, really, really repetitive and just so annoying. But we have to handle if the user doesn't exist, if the user is registered but not activated, in which case you can't reset your password because you need an active account in order to do things with your account. And then the state we expect, the state we want to have, which is the user is registered and active, so we can just go ahead and complete the registration. It would be really fantastic if I could just check for the state that I want things to be, and otherwise just say screw it, you messed up, it's unfixable, we're done, you don't need an account with us. But that wouldn't be good, I don't think. So here I am doing a lot of monotony and a lot of mental, it's overwhelming. But anyway, I'm making good progress on my user login, and hopefully I'll make some real progress today and get through all this password reset code. Most of the tests are implemented, and later on I'm going to go through and see what tests I still need to do. There might be a couple that I'm missing, considering I said there might be 12 different states. Oh, and then I guess we also might need to check for user is currently logged in versus not. Because I think if you're logged in, then maybe the password reset form shouldn't work. I don't know. It probably doesn't really matter that much either way, but it's another decision I have to make. Okay, well, thanks for listening to me rant about user login. I don't really recommend writing your own user login system. The actual backend code was pretty easy. I suppose it's 280 lines. But the actual API working with the database and all that, not so bad. All that's pretty straightforward, but then I get to the GUI stuff, and that's where everything gets into all kinds of craziness. Okay. One of these days I'll have a Patreon and ask you to give me money. Probably. Because, yeah. This user library is free and open source, and maybe I'll put a link to it in the description. If you want something out of the box, there is already user frosting. I have mixed feelings, kind of wish I would have gone for it, but it also doesn't seem quite right for my needs. And there's probably other options too. I'm not personally all that fond of any kind of client-side authentication. I think Auth0 is a JavaScript front-end authentication, and I want the auth on my server and not somebody else's server, and I want it on the back end, not on the front end. But also, I really like writing open source software, and I like reinventing the wheel. And I really like making software that is plug-inable. It's where my issue with personally using user frosting comes in. It seems to it wants to be your web server, if I'm understanding it correctly. Now I could probably finagle it to make it work however I want it to, because it's code. But I'm trying to design something that can be dropped into any website that is using any framework. That's the idea behind pretty much every piece of code that I write, but it often ends up being more complicated than that. Okay, bye.